There's a quiet lie a lot of us buy into early on. It's this idea that if you just follow the path of least resistance, if you just keep your head down, play it safe, and avoid making mistakes, you'll end up with a life that feels comfortable and complete. We like comfort. It's natural. Comfort feels predictable, and predictable feels safe. But there's a massive difference between living a safe life and living a fulfilling one. Think about the equation of risk and reward. It's not just a cliche you see painted on a wall or painted in a textbook. It is an undeniable rule of human existence. No risk, no reward. You cannot cheat that formula. You cannot get high return on zero investment. If you bet nothing, you win nothing. When you choose to never risk rejection, you forfeit the reward of deep connection. When you never risk failure, you forfeit the reward of achievement. When you never risk looking foolish, you forfeit the reward of growth. Every time that you shrink back to protect yourself from a potential loss, you are actively trading away a potential transformation. Security is an illusion anyway. You can take the safe path and still get laid off. You can stay in your comfort zone and still get broken up with. So if risk is going to find you regardless, why not take the kind of risk that actually moves you toward the life that you want? Now, this rule applies at every age, but in my opinion, it hits completely different when you're in your 20s. Your 20s are not a waiting room for real life. They aren't just a buffer period where you mess around until you turn 30, and then all of a sudden you decide to care. Your 20s are the foundation. They are defining the decade of your adult trajectory. Why is this? It's because your mid-20s are the rare window where your energy, adaptability, and resilience is at an all-time high, while your real-world liabilities are usually at an all-time low. You have time to bounce back. If you launch a venture at 23 and it completely flops, you aren't ruined. You're educated. If you move to a new city where you don't know a soul and it turns out to be a mistake, you pack your bags, move back, and you're still young enough to start fresh with a world of experience under your belt. In your 20s, failure is cheap. It costs a little ego, maybe some temporary stress, and a bit of money. But the price of an action in your 20s, that gets exponentially more expensive every single year. If you spend your 20s playing defense, staying in a job that you hate because it pays just enough to keep you comfortable, holding back on your creative projects because you're scared of what people on social media will think of you, you are compounding fear instead of experience. Risk-taking is a skill. If you don't practice taking smart risks when you have very little to lose, you won't magically develop the courage to do it later when the stakes are twice as high. Somewhere between childhood and adulthood, most people get persuaded to bury their dreams. When you're young, people ask what you want to do, and no answer is too big. You want to start a company, paint murals, travel the world, build something meaningful. But as you get older, the world starts whispering a different message. Be realistic, they say. Be realistic is often just a code for be comfortable with average. It's the phrase people use when they've abandoned their own ambitions and feel uncomfortable watching you go after yours. Keeping your dreams alive isn't about blind optimism. It's not about sitting in a room visualizing success and waiting for the universe to hand it to you. Keeping a dream alive is an active, gritty daily choice. It means taking the dream off the pedestal and turning it into a work order. If you want to build a business, you risk your free time after your 9 to 5. If you want to master a craft, you risk thousands of hours of looking like an amateur before you even look like an expert. If you want a life that looks different from everyone else's, you have to risk being misunderstood by people who are content with the status quo. Don't let the noise of the crowd drown out the quiet voice inside you that knows what you're capable of. That dream isn't an accident. It's a blueprint of your potential. But potential means absolutely nothing if it is sitting on the shelf because you were too intimidated to take step one. Now let's strip away all the fluff for a second and look at the math. You get one life. One. You don't get a dress rehearsal. You don't get a practice run where you can test things out and then reset the clock to live. This is it. The clock is running right now while you're listening to this. In 50, 60, or 70 years, you're gonna look back on your journey. And when people reach the end of their lives, research shows that they almost never regret the things that they tried and failed. They don't lie there wishing they had spent more time staying safe or hiding in the background. What haunts people is the ghost of unfulfilled potential, the what ifs. What if I actually published that work? What if I started that venture? What if I told that person how I felt? What if I had just given it everything I had for 12 straight months to see what was possible? Regret from failure fades quickly because you gain answers. closure, and wisdom. But regret from inaction lingers forever because it leaves an open question that can never be answered. Your time here is too short, and your life is too valuable to spend it living as an observer in your own story. So what are you going to do? Risk doesn't mean being reckless. It doesn't mean throwing away your life savings on a gamble or jumping off a cliff without a plan. Risk means having the courage to step outside the boundaries of what is comfortable and familiar because you care more about where you're going than where you're sitting. It means accepting that failure is a possibility and deciding that staying where you are is an impossibility. If you're in your 20s, this is your green light. Stop waiting for permission, stop waiting for the perfect timing, the perfect market, or the moment when you finally feel ready. You will never feel 100% ready for the things that transform your life. Readiness is built in the middle of the action, not on the sidelines. Take the meeting, send the email, start the project, put your work out there. Bet on yourself. Because at the end of the day, the biggest risk you can ever take is taking no risk at all. You have one life to build something you're proud of. Make it count.